Well, it's raining outside, so we thought we'd do this indoors today. And one of the things that I thought we should discuss today is something that's always pretty emotionally charged, which is how does hunting actually lead to conservation? And is hunting conservation? Well, the reality is hunting is not necessarily conservation. Hunting is only conservation if it's done sustainably, responsibly, and ethically. So what does sustainable and responsible mean when you talk about a quota? I'd like to draw an analogy here. Imagine a financial institution that puts an endowment together. So a core bunch of money, and you only use the interest. If you only use the interest and you never touch your core, you're always going to have that core. Let's think of wildlife in the same way. If you've got your core population of wildlife, every single year there's going to be certain bulls that are yielded from that core population that are beyond breeding, that are old, and if those are seen as the trophy offtake for an area, and only those, then your core wildlife population is going to remain intact. As soon as your quota goes too high, you start to destroy the core and everything falls apart. So making sure that your quota is very, very light. So in a lot of areas, the quota is 1 or 2% of the overall total, which makes complete sense because let's think of 100 animals in a population. If you've got 100 animals in a population, it would follow that 50 could be males and 50 could be females. Of the 50 males, let's say you've got 10 really old ones, 10 that are of breeding age, 10 sub-adults, 10 youngsters, and 10 babies. So you've got your 50 animals, of which only 10 of them are really old. So the predators and natural mortalities are going to take care of a bunch of those 10. So if you're only taking 2 out of every 100 animals that you've got on your property, you're having absolutely zero impact. But if it's done well, those 2 will generate enough income for you to be able to fund all kinds of conservation. You can fund community development. You can fund anti-poaching. You can fund an income for a family to make a living out of the hunting model. And so really, it's not really the hunting that is conservation, but it's the way the money is used from the hunting that's conservation. So I'd like to take a real life example. So an example like Katada 11, where we've got a strong partnership there with Zambezi Delta Safaris and Conservation. What they do every year is they fund a large amount of their anti-poaching, a large amount of their science and research, and a huge amount of their community development. But in addition to that, every bit of meat that is harvested goes to the community. So last year, for example, over 60,000 pounds of meat was distributed for free to the community. But it was only distributed to villages that had an absolutely clean slate with no poaching. So as soon as you catch a poacher and you find that he's from a particular village, they run the risk of losing their free meat drop. So in addition to the clinics and the schools and everything else that they're doing, the local community runs the risk of losing the free meat that's coming to them. And as a local community, if they're not seeing direct benefits from this healthy ecosystem, they're not going to support it. So coming back to basics, how does hunting turn into conservation? The hunting itself is not conservation. It's the way that the money is spent that's generated from hunting that can become excellent conservation. And so as that model expands into many, many, many ecosystems across Africa, it becomes a very viable and very sustainable model and has led to the preservation of huge ecosystems and large numbers of animals. There's no other way that in some of those ecosystems that wildlife could generate the same amount of money. And so hunting absolutely has its place, but it's got to be sustainable, it's got to be ethical, and it's got to be with a very responsibly set quota. Hope that gives you something to think about. Let's chat some more tomorrow night. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.